It's time for V's and O's here on the Villanova Basketball Report. Bob Long representing Villanova. Tony Morelli of Radio 1851, St. Joseph's University Student Radio, a grad student on with us here tonight, member of the track team, put together in contact by Tom O'Kane, so we appreciate that once again, and having a great show here so far. We're going to go to the whiteboard now and discuss some of the keys for both teams, how St. Joe's is going to come out offensively, how Villanova is going to react, and vice versa. So, guess first, we're going to let Tony do his thing here. What do you got?
Okay, so in an ideal world for me, I wish that St. Joe's was running the Princeton offense, a lot of motion. I like the way that we have shooters and we could really drive to the lane and stuff like that, but we don't have that situation currently. We have a high pick and roll. So usually this is Taylor Funk right here at the top of the key. Not the top of the key, at the top of the arc. And then you get Fresh right here, Kimball, point guard for the team. Usually have Charlie Brown down here, cutting the baseline, looking for open when they do for the pick and roll. Usually hits this way, hits to the lane. You get Charlie cutting. There's always a pass right here. Easy dunk, easy layup. If that doesn't work, Charlie always can escape up here. There's someone over here, Charlie standing here. Usually, so this would say Taylor Funk, power forward. Say Longpre's here, or Bynum, the other guard, is right here. You can swing it around if Charlie's not open after the cut and Kimball's gone underneath the basket. So Kimball would continue underneath the basket like this. Charlie's up here now because the cut didn't work. Getting him the ball. Villanova's still here. I don't know if they were, say they're running a zone, for instance, they'd have a player here and here. They would swing it around to try to get that open man. 3 guys against 2. That would be usually standing here if it was a 2-3 zone. If it was a 3-3 zone, you could swing it again and around. And Longpre could shift down here, or Funk could shift down here. And then you'd have Charlie, Longpre, Bynum, and Funk with Kimball underneath the basket. You could escape down here. That's usually what the offense looks like, the high pick and roll, the easy cut underneath the basket. And if Charlie swung it out again, you could reset with the pick and roll. Now he's cutting back down the baseline again, looking for the open dunk or layup. He's a great finisher, 6'7", great length. And that's usually how we're generating offense, especially with the star player in Charlie Brown.
Okay, so Villanova defensively, it's very interesting that you brought up the zone concept because Villanova very rarely will go to a zone, but there are times last year when they were a little short on the bench and they had to go with Dylan Painter, a big man down low, they would almost always go to a 2-3 zone. But that's about it. 2016 is another time I thought about where Villanova went back to the zone and they ran it atrociously in a non-conference game against University of Virginia. And we were thinking, why are they doing this? But Jay said, we're going to need it eventually. And they had to run it against Buddy Hield in Oklahoma in the Final Four. They weren't ready in December. They ended up being ready in early April. But I'm going to break this down as if Villanova's running the man-to-man defense, which I assume they're doing. So this is Kimball, right?
Yep.
He's going to be guarded by, so let's see, you said the screen's coming about here, right?
Yeah.
So here's Colin Gillespie. And Colin Gillespie is going to be screened off. Your big is here. This is going to be Demir Cosby-Roundtree. And the way Villanova plays their offense is that they are a quick switch team. And they count on their big men to guard whoever it is that is coming off the screen. Big guy guarding a guard or vice versa. So Colin Gillespie has found itself, as your guy will dive to the cup, Gillespie has to get there as well, and he'll try to front him. Now, that doesn't always work particularly well, but you'll have a guy like Sadiq Bey back here that if there is an over-the-top pass that's attempted on the roll, he can be there to come in and make that deflection. Of course, having a guy in the corner is a nice option for you, but the thing that I'm concerned about is Demir Cosby-Roundtree and his ability, not just on the high pick and roll, but just generally speaking, what I have seen from St. Joe's this year is that their bigs will run the outside and will be out here on the perimeter. Demir Cosby-Roundtree is not ready to guard that quite yet. He's not what Omari Spellman was from an athletic ability standpoint. And so that's a part of why Villanova has struggled a little bit defensively. And so you picked out something that I dissected week after week after week last year, even as they were winning games, as this is going to bite them at some point. Fortunately for them, it didn't, because they had an absolutely unbelievable offensive team. And defensively, they worked so hard, and I think they got good enough at guarding the high pick and roll last year. So I think Villanova's going to have trouble, but it's going to be down to Demir Cosby-Roundtree and what he's able to do in terms of whether Villanova's going to be able to defend this or not. But I do think that you should look for a lot of switching, and Demir Cosby-Roundtree, at the very least, hedging for as long as he can and then trying to recover. But I think that's an issue because you have the eyes of Kimball, the eyes of Bynum, guys that are really good guards that if they get hedged on and there's a double out there, Demir Cosby-Roundtree, they're not going to let him get back because that hard cut, they're going to get the ball to him before they can react.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's the fact that Bynum could be waiting up here when they swing the ball around. If it doesn't work, you kick it back out. If they're able to cover that the pick and roll, is Bynum could just go back and attack right away. You're all of a sudden setting up another pick and roll almost instantly because you have, as you said, the two power forwards streaking around here. Well, they can easily come for help. Bynum setting up again. Kimball's scattered across the arc if it has to. And another player who I haven't mentioned, Pierre Francesco. He is a guy, power forward. He will actually sometimes run the pick and roll with another power forward. You have two big men running the pick and roll now, and you have your guard and two guards, Bynum and Kimball, and Charlie spread throughout the court. Those are our three strongest shooters outside of Funk. And
now, how does that work and why? I mean, the idea behind a pick and roll is to get mismatches, and if you're running two bigs, it feels like an easier switch than if it's a guard and a big.
Yeah, I totally agree. But the fact that I think Pierre is pretty quick off the ball, and that's what gives the advantage. You have you might be switching guards, but it's just getting a little more space, especially if they're pressing up in a man-to-man situation. Gains a little space with the new guy. Pierre can pull up from here just like Kimball can off a pick and roll, and he just has good decision-making skills. They might not be looking for the advantage when it comes to size, but they just trust him more with the ball in his hand sometimes to free up the guards to shoot. That's more important than the IQ of or the mismatch that might be created. It's the fact that we can find guards who are better shooters out on the perimeter.
Interesting. Okay, so there's the first one.
Yep.
Satisfied with that breakdown?
Yeah,
okay.
I thought it was pretty accurate of what we're going to be seeing from St. Joe's on the offensive side.
Okay, all right. We can start by erasing that one and figuring out what's next here. All right, so let's look at Villanova. I know that the high pick and roll isn't particularly complex, we'll say. Villanova's offense is not very complex at all. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's about getting athletes in space and letting them do their own thing. So I'm going to highlight Eric Paschall. And for people that have watched this show, Pascal's a guy that we talk about a lot because he is just so versatile. And you don't really need to write plays for him. He's a guy that can either set a high ball screen up here and kick out for three. He can hit that three. He can also fake this pick and roll here, roll to the cup, and then all of a sudden he's a freight train coming down the lane and nobody can stop him. Or when he has the ball in his hands, Eric Paschall is at his best when he's driving not to the baseline but to the middle of the floor. Paschall is a bull. He can get you, if you're not in good guarding position, he is going to take you for a ride. If you are in good guarding position, he's probably going to run through you and it's going to be an offensive foul. Just saying, that's the way it's been with Eric for a long time. But what he is so good at is getting in here and either finishing with a two-handed dunk. He can pull up right here and hit that mid-range, or what he also is, an unbelievable passer. And if there's somebody backdoor, he'll find them here. If there's somebody out here, if a defender is collapsing, he'll find Joe Cremo, Colin Gillespie, Sadiq Bey, baseline. Those are three really good shooters for Villanova. So the idea for Villanova, the way it has been in the past couple years, is to space the floor, find a guy that's going to penetrate, and then either get to the basket or kick it out to a wide-open three-point shooter. If you're Phil Booth is a guy that's taken on more of a Jalen Brunson role. So Phil, I'll say he's a guy that will pull up and take some ill-advised shots, but what he'll do is run the Jalen Brunson play, as I like to call it. There's a winger out here, let's call him Sadiq Bey, and then there's Phil Booth out here. Booth with the basketball. He'll dribble this way as if he's going to hand it off for Sadiq Bey, but then they're just going to keep going. And they're going to pass like traffic on an interstate. So now it's going to be replaced. Phil Booth is going to be over here. Sadiq Bey is going to be right here. And Joe Cremo maybe is going to be over there. And you're going to have Cole Swider right here, let's just say. Demir Cosby-Roundtree, let's just call him at the elbow. This is essentially a clear-out play, where Phil Booth, he's going to say, I'm bigger and stronger than the guard, and I'm a better back-to-the-basket guy than the guy that's defending me. So he's going to be right here, and he's going to now just start backing this guy down, and wait for a second guy to come on defense, find Bay, find Swider, whoever it might be, or just quite simply take that guy to the basket. So we'll say not controlled chaos or anarchy, but not the traditional play call in the half court that you're going to expect from a lot of different teams. It's get your athletes in space, give them some conceptual ideas, and then trust their ability to go out and execute. This year it hasn't been as smooth as last year, but I think with this type of athlete, this type of team, and this type of, we'll call it positionless basketball in many ways, it works for Villanova.
And let me now bring out St. Joe's defensive lineup, because I think this is a play that's going to give us the most issue, especially when Charlie Brown, CB, is here in the 2-3 zone. So say there's a guard here, whatever it means. And then there's, say, Funk over here. Right? Against Temple, we ran a 2-3 zone, and we had an 8-point lead when we were doing it. We were holding them down to points. We switched to man at the second half, and it was not good, partially because the offense wasn't getting into shape, but also we didn't hold Temple down as much either by giving up 16 points and only scoring 6 at that time. So there's a player that doesn't get a lot of minutes. He gets about 6 minutes a game. That is very important to me. Markel Lodge. He is 6'10". He jumps high jump on the track and field team, one of my teammates.
Nice.
And he is going to have to be the defensive help, and I get frustrated when Phil doesn't play this guy enough because we lack size. Taylor Funk, the power forward, is a little undersized when it comes to height, and so he can't play the center position to give help to Charlie Brown, who has early foul troubles usually in games. I believe it was against, I think it was West Virginia. He had 3 fouls in the first half because of his inability to play defense sometimes. He's just, I don't know what it is. He gets back down easily. He just can't keep guys in front of him, cut them off when they're hitting the lane. So I think Markel Lodge would be our only cure or help, at least, for this. We're just going to have to let you guys shoot from outside and hope that you miss. It's just the play it's going to be. We got to bring defensive help, and we got to be able to collapse. If this player comes around, Markel can come up in here. If they do a dribble handoff from a player. But if they kick it out, we have no answer. It's going to have to be a center helping out with this back down because Charlie Brown could be exposed very easily. It's a concern for me when I see you draw this play up.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you draw up the zone. I might have a slightly different opinion about that because I think that a zone defense is actually an effective counter to this. This I draw up on kind of a man-to-man situation. Like if you guys have your prongs out here and Bay comes up here and Booth switches here and starts backing down Charlie Brown, okay, is that actually a problem for you guys? Probably not. So the zone, if you guys run the zone, I think that opens up a whole new can of worms for Villanova. So now I think the key comes to Eric Pascal. Remember I talked about how he gets into the lane via the dribble drive. I still think that yeah, of course.
Real quick, I'll put K for Kimball. Okay, there you go.
I think that he can still get into the lane, but at that time against the zone, it's really difficult because everybody's hands are in there and everybody's collapsing. It's easy to turn the ball over trying to dribble drive into a zone. So I think what the key is going to be is Eric Pascal now starting down here, flashing up here, catching the ball in the middle of the zone, and then either taking one power dribble to the hole, which he can do if he's not picked up, or at that time forcing 2 defenders and finding somebody outside, let's call it Joe Cremo, Phil Booth up here at the top, and Colin Gillespie will be on that side. So I think that's kind of the idea. Maybe Cole Swider here on the side is the idea is just to get the ball into the center of the zone, but through the lob pass, not through the dribble drive. And I think that's where Villanova can have problems. Colin Gillespie's gotten a little bit ahead of himself, turning the ball over from time to time, dribbling into spaces where he shouldn't be. So for me, it's about quick ball movement, eliciting some really good shots based on defenders having to collapse, and getting yourself out of the zone that way. The issue is I can see this. Boom, boom. Oh, okay, shot's not there. Comes back to Booth. Okay, maybe a skip pass to Swider here. All right, we're just going to shoot over the top of the zone. and whether it's Demir Cosby-Roundtree down here or Eric Pascal, them not getting a touch. That's where a zone gets really effective if a team isn't ready for it and they don't know exactly how to execute. I mean, if you get Eric Pascal here and Demir Cosby-Roundtree here, let's take Cole Swider off the floor and you have 2 bigs here. The entry pass comes in here. the entry pass comes in here, and now you pull this guy up, Demir Cosby-Roundtree on the back door. You find him there after your defender comes up to guard at the top of the key. Or if he doesn't, then Eric Paschal can dive right to the rim. That's the way I think Villanova can proceed offensively against the zone. But I'll be quite honest with you, Tony. That's a concern for me because I don't know if this young Villanova team is ready to take down the zone quite yet.
Yeah, and it's definitely been St. Joe's most successful defensive lineup. I believe when Markel Lodge is in there and you have a 6'10 guy who's cut, he looks like LeBron James. He's so muscular. And he can just, if he's smart, it's all about basketball IQ with him, and it's all about discipline with the guards. Because if you're swinging the ball around and these guys want to try to overreach and try to swipe the ball when it's being swung around, it's going to be an issue because now you're really open. You're just breaking the zone at that point. It's going to be guard discipline, and can this guy make sure he doesn't foul when there's going to be activity in there? And the help will come. He just can't be making mistakes, mental mistakes, hacking guys. Just let them shoot if it's going to be an inefficient mid-range shot, because that's what happens in the zone. You try to find the flats, you try to find the openings, and they're pull-up jumpers from the mid-range. It's okay. Let them shoot it. They might miss. They tend to miss it more than you giving up free throws or layups. And what's more important is making sure you box out. Boxing out, this zone here.
You nailed it.
Right? Because
in the zone, it's so easy.
If you guys are swinging the ball and we're letting you shoot over the zone and you're not collapsing in on us, it's grabbing the rebound because these guys are just going to start streaking. And especially Charlie. Bynum will come down and Charlie will just come off the top side.
Well, the idea in a zone, right? I mean, let's just say they were in man-to-man, and so Brown is going to cover Cosby-Roundtree, and Lodge is going to guard Eric Paschal, and Funk is going to guard, let's just say they're going high. They go with Swider, a big lineup, right? Lodge knows he needs to get Paschal. Brown knows to box out Demir Cosby-Roundtree, and Funk knows that he needs to box out Cole Swider. Okay, well, what happens where this is how the play starts? Cosby-Roundtree up here, Paschal, Swider, and at the end of the play, Swider is down, maybe Swider's in this area, and Cosby-Roundtree is in this area, and Paschal's over here. Well, you don't have a guy. In a zone defense, you don't have a guy. You have a space. And so when a shot goes up, you don't immediately know where your guy is. Put your hands on him, box him out. And that's why when you talk about zone defenses, one of the real bugaboos is giving up offensive rebounds. And Villanova has one of the better offensive rebounds in the Big East in Demir Cosby-Roundtree. That's one advantage I would see for Villanova. But again, I really do fear that Villanova might not be ready to come in and commit to attacking the zone through the middle the way you need to.
Yeah, and a lineup I would like if that was going to happen. If rebounding became such an issue on the defensive end, you take this guy out here. You take Kimball out. This is crazy for the viewers out there.
Where is your scoring?
Line him up in the shooting guard.
All right.
And then let's say long prey. But if he can't get it done, you could put Pierre Francesco in there, and now you have 6'9", 6'9", 6'10". You have 6'7" here. He can handle the ball or play shooting guard. He can shoot very well, and you just trust Bynum because I like that assist to turnover ratio. Kimball's good, but against Taco Fall at UCF, he could not get in the paint against taller defenders. He was scared of the 7'4" monster Taco Falls is. So
same here, by the way.
So I kind of trust Bynum. He's an efficient scorer. He's a great passer, and I put Charlie in the shooting guard position and get size out there because if that's an issue,
still got to grab somebody. Even if you have the big guys out there in a zone, you got to find somebody to box out. But that's good stuff. Last thing I wanted to talk about, if you're good for me to erase this.
Erase the whole way.
Is I really think that Villanova, after a made bucket, we're going to go full now, is going to try to institute and implement the three-quarters court press. And they've done this for a long time. Perhaps it's Booth and Colin Gillespie. Or you could have, if you're going to put one guy up there, you could put Sadiq Bey all up in his zone. But let's just say you got the two guards there about midway up the floor. And back here you have Bey. And I keep going with Swider, but let's just say Cosby-Roundtree is back here and Eric Paschal is here. The idea is not to cause turnovers. And that sounds crazy. They'll take turnovers all day long and twice on Sunday. But with the turnovers here, I think Villanova is more likely just trying to make things very difficult for a team. So as St. Joe's is trying to bring the ball up the floor, you're forced to pass over here, and then you force a pass back here, and then another pass over here, and now you're across half court. A running team like St. Joe's, Villanova is going to try to make them take 7-6 seconds off the clock before they get into the front court, and then you're back into your normal man-to-man set. But I would look a lot for this three-quarters court press.
When I see this, I think my lineup I just put on the court was the fact that Kimball and Bynum, I had substituted out Kimball for Charlie Brown, bigger lineup in case rebounding had become an issue. If I see this, I want Kimball in then because he's a little more athletic, he's a little quicker, and I know you're saying you're passing it around. I'm hoping maybe he could just run by guys. I mean, really, that's the only thing I could think of. He has the smart, just like Bynum, smart decision making, but I think he's a little more athletic and can get him, not cut guys off, but get around them a little bit and run up the court. Even if they're going to have a cutoff here, you could then bring Charlie Brown here, and that's your only hope of maybe pushing it. And the other thing is force bad shots because you can't set this up if it's off a miss. You can only set it up if it's off a make. So if you play good defense, this won't be as much of an issue as it could be.
Fair enough. And that 8 turnovers a game, I'm not saying this is designed to force 25 turnovers a game like press Virginia. However, if it does cause a couple, it could get St. Joe's out of the game. I would expect to see a little bit of this from Villanova, but it's about I think it's a good time to stop unless you have any other thoughts.
We've covered everything pretty much.
Phil Martelli and Jay Wright will be watching this as they prepare for the games.
Hopefully, Phil. I love Phil. I can't say too many things about him. Let me interview him. So just not a critique, but this is what Phil will probably draw up for sure. Defense is the most important thing for this team. It has been a struggle. We let up 90 points to most teams while scoring 92 a game. So if you really want to win, you got to play good defense. And this right here, this whole trap and this press is what concerns me if we don't play good defense.
Mm-hmm. So you've been on the first V's and O's here. What'd you think? You have fun?
Very exciting. You turn on ESPN, you don't get this stuff. You get people talking about if LeBron James is the greatest player ever. No, you want the X's and O's. This is what people care about. This is why the internet media, like other outlets, are very popular. I love it.
Good stuff. That's our V's and O's here from our special Villanova Basketball Report with the St. Joe's Tony's Takes. Tony Morelli on with us.